Hello there, M&A Advisor community. This is Roger Aguinaldo, and welcome back to the M&A Advisor podcast. Since 1998, the M&A Advisor's mission is to recognize achievements, provide thought leadership, and connect professionals in mergers and acquisitions for the purpose of improving your deal-making craft and accelerating your deal flow. We are so glad you're joining us for this insightful and inspiring podcast conversation curated for mergers and acquisitions professionals. Whether you're an aspiring deal maker, a seasoned professional, or just curious about the world of mergers and acquisitions, you'll find something valuable and relevant in our podcast. Our goal is to bring you the best insights, stories, and tips from the experts who've been there and done that, so you can learn from their successes and mistakes and take your deal-making skills to the next level. But before we dive into today's episode, we have a small favor to ask you. If you enjoy listening to our podcast and find it useful, please consider following us on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and YouTube, and subscribing to our M&A Alerts newsletter. You can find the links in the description below. This will help us reach more people like you and grow our community of M&A professionals. It will also let us know that you appreciate our work and want us to keep producing more quality content for you. Plus, you'll never miss an episode, and you'll always be in the loop with the latest trends in the M&A world to improve and accelerate your deal making. So please follow us. You are the reason we do what we do, and we couldn't do it without you. And now for today's podcast. Hello, M&A Advisor community. Welcome to another inspiring episode of the M&A Advisor podcast. I'm Roger Aguinaldo, creator and CEO of the M&A Advisor. Stay tuned as I dive into insightful conversations with top experts in M&A, distressed investing, restructuring, and finance. You won't want to miss their valuable insights. With fall 2024 in full bloom coming on to winter, the M&A Advisor excited to prepare for the upcoming 2025 Distressed Investing Summit in Palm Beach, Florida. The premier gathering promises to highlight transformative ideas, innovative solutions, and collaborative strategies, shaping the dynamic M&A landscape with a focus on bankruptcy, restructuring, and turnarounds. Don't miss this opportunity to be part of an event dedicated to revitalizing distressed businesses. Our podcasts aim to shine a spotlight on the voices that move the M&A industry forward towards excellence. And in this context, we are proud to introduce a distinguished thought leader and an expert in crisis, restructuring, and bankruptcy, litigation, ESG, and investor and public relations. Let's give a warm welcome to Joele Frank of Joele Frank, Wilkinson Brimmer Catcher. We're thrilled to have you on our podcast today, Joele.
Thank you so much for inviting me. It's a delight to be here.
Thanks, Joele. I'm just going to give you a little bit of your background. Joele Frank is a co-founder and managing partner of Joele Frank, Wilkinson Brimmer Catcher, a leading strategic financial communications and investor relations firm recognized for their intellect, integrity, and intensity. The company was founded in 2000 and ranked number one in M&A since 2013 and number one in shareholder activism defense since 2019. The firm has offices in New York and San Francisco and serves clients all around the world. Joele herself has been a trusted advisor to her clients, counseling executive teams and boards of directors and managing highly complex and delicate events for over 30 years, and having played a major role in more than 3,000 special situations. Joele understands the impact communications have on corporate reputation and the ability to achieve overall business objectives. I could go on, but I do want to say that Joele did receive a Lifetime Leadership Award from the M&A Advisor last year and was inducted into the Hall of Fame, and her firm won Firm of the Year, Public Relations Firm of the Year, Communications Firm of the Year this past year at the 23rd Annual M&A Advisor Awards. Joele received an AB in chemistry from Mount Holyoke College and an MBA in finance from Long Island University. Ladies and gentlemen, please join me in giving another warm welcome to our esteemed guest, Joele Frank. Welcome to the show, Joele.
Thank you so very much. And I'm so competitive. I want to be first in everything all the time.
Well, I think that competitiveness also matches many of your clients. Now, we have a number of emerging leaders. These are those professionals in mergers and acquisitions and restructuring under the age of 40. We recognized a number of them at our emerging leaders last year, and they tend to listen to podcasts. They tend to. This is one way in which we get to get inside and talk about your career journey and how you started, because this is where a number of the people under the age of 40, probably in their late 20s, early 30s, are thinking about, okay, how did Joele begin her career? And let's start there. So you're at Holyoke.
I'm a chemistry major on a dare. My roommate said to me, you aren't smart enough to be a chemistry major. And I said, I am too. So I did it.
Okay. And you grew up where? You grew up in Massachusetts?
I grew up in Williamstown, Massachusetts, where Williams College is.
Okay. And what did you like to? What did your parents do?
My dad was a dentist. Okay. I think the most important thing in my life is that at 11 years old, they brought me to New York City for the first time, and I walked and I said, I'm going to live here. But you know how long it took me? It took me like 30 years later. I didn't get here right away.
So, I mean, it's you played the long game.
Yeah. Well, it's a long game, but what you probably don't know is this is my third career.
Okay.
So I began as a biochemist.
So you said you started on it as a dare? I mean, your dad was a dentist. What did your mom do?
It was a dare. I should have been a math major or something, but, okay. But I became a biochemist and I did DNA research, the things that, changing the way chromosomes are matched and doing a lot of the stuff that is developing the new things that are doing today. Everything I did in the lab in the old days is now done in a kit. But I was at Stony Brook and I mapped a lot of genes, and I was earning so little money that I said, I'm going to get my MBA at night, and I'm going to, I was earning $4,000 a year. And I said, I'm going to get my MBA. I'm going to see what I have to do. And I got my MBA and I moved to New York City, and I began first at Allied Chemical, which became Allied Signal, and then at AT&T as part of the Bell system. That was, many young people today don't even know that all of, Verizon was part of a bigger organization. And I was I was in the finance department, and there were 11 of us that divided the Bell system. We decided there would be 7 baby bells. We decided how to divide the $5.40 dividend. And you're looking at the person who divided the debt. And to give you some perspective.
So what did you work? Where did you work? Were you in their finance department?
I was in their finance department.
Okay.
And
let's back up a little bit, because many people don't know that AT&T used to be this behemoth monopoly.
It was 2% of the gross national product and 1% of the labor force of the United States at one time.
Right. And then the United States government sued AT&T for antitrust. And they said, hey, you got to break up into 7?
No. The company decided it would be 7.
Oh, the company decided
they had to break up, but the company gave the structure. And and my group, our little finance group, did the financial side of things.
Okay. Now, did you do it so that it benefited the shareholders?
Definitely benefited the shareholders. It became, many of the companies that we split apart actually merged together later. Like Verizon is a combination of what were 2 baby bells. Pacific and the AT&T today is still, it's still a lot of what it was, but it bought another corporation later on. I mean, I could take you through the machinations of everything, but in my career after I left AT&T, the reason I left AT&T is they moved out of New York City, and I work in New York City.
Okay. So wait, hold on. Let's step back because I think I missed a step. So you're at Holyoke. You go down to Stony Brook as a chemist. Where were you working?
I worked at Stony Brook, the university.
Oh, Stony Brook, the university. Okay, so you didn't attend Stony Brook. You were working at Stony Brook.
I was working in the university.
And then you said, okay, I'm getting my MBA. I'll go to I don't know where's Long Island University?
It's about 100 miles. It's somewhere around Long Island somewhere.
Oh, okay. All right. So you went to get your MBA, and then you're you're working for AT&T, and you're figuring out how to separate the company.
That's right.
Now, you were saying how to split up the dividend. What were you guys doing?
Well, the most important thing for shareholders, and AT&T had a huge, I mean, like these days, 20% of almost all corporations are retail shareholders. Yep. But AT&T had like 40% retail shareholders. And so the dividend was to a large portion of the population of people who owned AT&T. It was their income. And to divide up, it was $5.40. It's embedded in my brain. And to divide it up between AT&T and the 7 baby bells, you had to have a structure. And so we were the group that did it.
Wow.
And the debt was $22 billion. And we had to divide that up between AT&T and the 7 baby bells.
Now, what year? This is in the 70s.
It had to be done by 1/1/84. So we're working 81, 83.
Early 80s. So back then, were there there weren't that many women in finance, were there?
Well, actually, the treasurer of AT&T was a woman. Ginny Dwyer she was a role model. There weren't very many women. You got to understand, Carly Fiorina, who is famous, was paralleling my track. She paralleled me at AT&T. She was in a different part of the company, but we're paralleled through the same. Stuff.
Okay, so AT&T hired.
AT&T had a lot of women.
Okay, a lot of women there. So it sounds like Carly Fiorina was also a part of that. It looks like a pretty powerful.
We didn't meet till later. That's a story in itself, but yeah.
Okay. All right. Okay. So you're there. So did you execute the breakup, the restructuring, and then where did you eventually land?
Well, I stayed at AT&T post breakup. Breakup was 1/1/84, and then they disbanded our department. Right? They didn't need 11 people to divide the bell system. It was done. So they said, Joele, and you guys will laugh, you have a very big mouth. So we're going to put you in investor relations.
Okay.
And I loved it. It was a perfect match for my skill.
What did you like about that? Number one. Number two, it sounds like when you were mentioning before, you had people watching out for you, or like mentors. Were they helping you along?
AT&T did that. AT&T placed people all around. I mean, growing up inside the Bell system, you might go into AT&T and go back out to one of the subsidiaries, which before it was a Baby Bell was one of the 22 operating companies. There was a lot of movement. It was a very, very forward-looking structure to develop talent.
Really? Okay.
Yeah, really incredible. And you're talking, years and years and years. And I'm talking late 80s, but it's been going for a long time.
So they had the program itself, I guess, helped you along, right? Because
yes, that's what they always had done. And they moved me into investor relations. And I felt that was, I just loved it because I got to talk to a lot of smart analysts.
Yeah.
And at that time, the conference calls that people do every quarter hadn't happened yet. So every quarter I wrote what was basically the conference call script and sent it out as a newsletter to all of the analysts and shareholders on the street.
Mm. And is this what the CEO and CFO would potentially read on the conference call? They didn't have it
No,
yet.
there weren't conference calls didn't exist yet.
Oh, really?
They
Okay.
didn't exist.
That's funny because,
newsletter.
AT&T is a telephone company. So
I know, but it didn't exist.
That's ironic. Okay, so you sent it out as a press release back then.
Yeah, basically it's a press release.
Okay, and when did it become? Did conference calls come in existence?
I think conference calls were coming. AT&T didn't do it until after I left. I left when they moved to New Jersey, and found out that as an investor relations professional, who knew? But there were agencies that did what I was doing for AT&T for other companies. And so I joined first an agency called Adams and Reinhardt, and we were it was about 80 people, and it was even more fun than being in investor relations because I got to do public relations too, but always from a financial angle. And one of my first projects, and I have the dates because it was January 9th, 1988, we launched a hostel for Federated department stores. I was representing a Canadian company called Compo, and we launched a hostel for Federated department stores, which on Bloomingdale's and all sorts of stores across the United States. And during the hostel, which went from January 9th to Easter, we bought Macy's, and it was just, I mean, I didn't know what a hostel was at the time. The lawyers were very, very, very good to me. I mean, I didn't know anything. I didn't understand. I was answering maybe 200 phone calls a day from press, and I'd read the Wall Street Journal, and it was Brian Burrow who ended up writing Barbarians at the Gate, and he would write a story, and he would say, sources said blah, 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 blah. And I called the lawyers, and I said, who are these sources? And they said, I'm on press, and I haven't talked to Brian Burrow. And I said, who's he talking to? And the lawyers looked at me, or didn't look at me, but over the telephone, they said, me. I said, you? He said, Joele, you never heard of sourcing? I said, sourcing? So I had a long way to go to learn about public relations.
But so they would do these leaks, right? They would do these leaks on a tactical or strategic basis. They would leak news and stories to make a deal happen, right?
The press still does. We still do source. But when I began in 1988, I didn't know what it was.
Yeah. So let's step back 1 second. Why did you just love this stuff? What about, like, who loves a hostile takeover? Okay, I guess Joele Frank does.
It's so exciting.
Why?
It's the best way to go to war without getting killed. Today, right now, because M&A is slow and hostels are very difficult to do, although they may get easier. An activism defense is the closest thing to what I was doing, in 88. But what's exciting about it? You're responsible for the shareholders. You're responsible for your client. You've got to think through the press. You've got to think through the sell side community. You got to think through the regular community. These days, you also have all of the big passives and actives, which really it was a different group then. They were still passive and active, but they didn't own as much or have as much power then. A lot of it has combined over time. And it still is the best way, it's so exciting. Every day, you never know what somebody's going to do. You never know where the best idea is going to come from.
Yeah.
And public and investor relations are, if you're fighting for votes or you're fighting for shares, I mean, it's we're the voice. And so we're in the front. I mean, the lawyers and the bankers, they do it. I mean, everybody does it. But when I began in 88, PR was climbing to get a seat at the table.
Yeah.
Now we have it.
Yeah. It's because the communication, you could utilize the media and the press to sort of persuade the investors, shareholders.
It always came down to a vote at some point.
Right.
Or the other side knew they were going to lose the vote, so they came to a conclusion.
So I guess the boards got smart and it started putting things within the bylaws and documents that you can't necessarily easily do a shareholder hostile takeover.
Well, I mean, Lipton developed the poison pill about 10 years before I came into the business, but it became, that was just becoming to be put in on a regular basis. And a lot of the things that are now just done. Remember, in those days, you could have staggered boards. So when you had a proxy fight or you had something, only a third of the board was up. There are only about 80 companies now left with them, maybe less. But it was great. It was just great.
And now you're seeing more activists.
Activists are really where the hostile world is gone at the moment. I still think periodically we have a few hostile takeovers going on in the company, but they're for smaller companies right now.
Yeah. So that's like hedge funds.
No, it's one company for another.
Yeah. They're leading the charge on that, right? On the activist shareholder.
Activist shareholders fight for the boards right now and want you to do M&A or split or do divestitures and things. But there are a few M&A, there are mergers of equals, there are people buying things, but there are also there are very few, but there are a few hostiles going on.
Okay. Where do you see it going in the near future? I guess 2025 and beyond.
I'm not sure. The activists are, some of the long-term activists have stopped to a large degree. Bill Ackman is not going forward. Third Point is not as active as it was. I mean, I'm not sure they ever can really give it up, but they have not. We haven't seen them in the front lines. And there are some younger activists coming into the fold to do other things.
Okay. Is that your primary business at Joele?
No, we have 8 things. We do 8 things.
Okay. Well, let's we fast forwarded to where you are today. So you're at this PR firm. When did you say, "Hey, I'm going to co-found my own"?
Well, I went to 2 PR firms. First I was Adams and Reinhardt, then I moved to Abernathy. I was a contractor. Abernathy and I had a contract. And so I joined them when they were 25 people, and we helped build the firm to be 80 people. I was 50% of the revenue and 75% of the margin when I said to them, "Guys, I have no equity.
Yeah.
I'm making you all this money.
Yeah.
I think I should have some equity." And
that's funny that you had to say that, right? They didn't come to you and say, "Hey, if Joele were to walk out that door, half of our revenue."
Well, my contract was up.
Okay.
Right? My contract, they knew very well that my contract was up on January 3rd, 2000. So we were negotiating for about 4 or 5 months, but they never came through with anything reasonable.
Okay. Especially half the revenue and 3/4 of the profit. Okay. I'd figure out how to make a deal with you, Joele. So then you said, "Okay, I'm opening up my own."
Right. Well, one of the things, because I was a contract player, I didn't have partnership responsibility. I could leave easily. Yeah. I had no non-compete either.
Ooh.
And so I was very fortunate. I had no non-compete and I was a contract player. And my team, Dan Catcher, Judy Wilkinson, Andy Bremer, we all were working together. And so they joined me. And when we started, we were 12 people. So.
Now, was it just you first name on the...
One day we just got up and left Abernathy.
Okay. And then it was your firm, or did all the other...
Well, the way I did it, unlike anybody else in the world, is we gave out equity. Okay. Judy, Dan, and Andy, and my husband, who was the COO at the time, we decided that we wanted them to have real skin in the game. So we gave them equity. Every partner, and we've developed that over time. I did not keep the majority of the equity. I gave out the equity to my partners, and it's been very, very it was a brilliant move because
Now,
it was everybody's business.
Which one's your husband? Is your husband's on the
My
on that?
husband he's retired now, but he
Okay.
was the COO.
Okay, and what's his name?
Larry Clearfeld.
Okay. I haven't had the pleasure. Maybe I did at one of our events, but
You did it, Yvette, when he was at the table when I was.
Oh, okay. All right. I'll next time I'll make sure I go around your whole table. But there were over 400 people in that room.
You run a terrific situation. It's great. It's very exciting.
How was it from out there? I just want to. Did you like
a lot?
A
lot of it awards. I think it's very exciting for the people. I thought during the day was very, very interesting because that's where the young people meet contacts and meet people who can help them in the future, or, you never know who you're going to meet or need. And so the conference during the day, much more important than even though the event is marvelous.
Yeah, it is. And you may not know while you're, we have the thing going, we have the M&A ideas. That's the fireside chats that you were with. And by the way, it was great session, fireside chat you had. We had over, I think, 300 and plus one-on-one meetings going on at the same time, right? So yeah, you should have your people go out there. A lot of capital providers, investment bankers, that are there. So you're absolutely right. We try to make it conducive for people to network and to meet people. Now, did you do that when you were starting your firm? How did you get the word out about what you were doing?
Roger, I was so fortunate. The bankers and the lawyers who had given me work when I was at Abernathy and at Adams and Reinhardt basically kept us going. Yeah. We started on January 3rd, the day my contract ended, 2000, and 3 weeks later, we had 37 clients.
Wow.
So we were able to really move very, very rapidly. And right after we started, a year later, 2001, people don't remember, but there was a recession.
Yeah.
And
so you had 9/11 happened.
And 9/11. And Compact had been bought by HP.
Yeah.
Now, remember I said Carly and I bump into each other later.
Okay.
And we got this phone call from Wachtell saying, think you want to go, can you go to California for a couple of days? Because Mr. Hewlett wants to hire a PR firm. He doesn't really want to. So we were Walter Hewlett versus trying to stop the merger. He had been on the board, it was Hewlett Packard. He was Walter Hewlett. He was the son of the founder. And he was what I call the original activist. And I, and that was it was a huge fight, just a huge fight.
Yeah.
And,
Give people the 30 seconds on that, because I think,
well, it was so long ago, but, it was Confederated, Compact, and, HP had bought Compact Computers, which, in East Coast, West Coast, big computers. But the family had a huge amount of the vote. And even though Mr. Hewlett had been on the board, he voted yes to the merger and no as a shareholder. I know it's unusual. And then it became a huge fight. It went right down to the meeting. Carly had to delay the meeting to get a vote from Germany to win.
So Carly was
CEO of HP.
Where was she? What was her position?
She was CEO of HP.
Of HP. Okay. So she was brokering the deal to buy Compaq, and her board said
yes, but Mr. Hewlett decided later it wasn't a good idea.
So he wasn't making enough money as a shareholder.
I don't think I think he felt it was incorrect they basically undid the deal. Yeah. But that was it was quite a situation. It was quite something.
And so what did you do?
We wrote all the letters for Mr. Hewlett. We did the proxy fight. It was a shareholder vote. Would they get the 50% plus one share that they needed to get the deal done?
But they did.
They did, but it was during them. It was very tight. It was so tight, you have no idea.
He was against it. How many shares did he have? Well, what percent of shares did he have?
Did the family own? I can't remember anymore, but it was sizable. Mr. Hewlett and Mr. Packer both owned a lot of shares.
Right. But then they did get it. And you were representing?
I was representing Walter Hewlett, but I mean, it wasn't a company. He tried to stop the deal. The deal ultimately went through, but it was a very tight vote.
Okay. And you were
yes
helping,
or no, for it or against.
You were trying to stop the deal. Okay. And how did the deal? She's very articulate, Carly is, right? And I think she ran for president too, right?
Yeah, I know, but that was my relationship with her. It goes on and on and on. So Mr. Hewlett lost. It came down to the wire. Yeah. And then about 2 years passed and she was having some issues. And she said, hire that woman who caused me all that trouble. So I was hired by HP. Oh my gosh. A ton of time.
So, the deal didn't work out to be economic. I mean,
the deal didn't work out well. That they didn't undo it, but it worked. She did other things, and there were other issues.
The culture was tough. I think the culture, right? Compaq was a little bit more entrepreneurial, and HP.
I wasn't there. Yeah. All I did was come in when there was trouble.
Is that when they all call you? They call you like it's already done. You got to clean up the mess.
Sometimes.
Okay.
Sometimes.
All right.
With HP has been HP. When they ultimately went to, I can't remember the guy's name from AT. And one guy came in, and then Apotheker came in, and then the board. I mean, if you look at all the different times, Joele Frank, I could give you a whole sheet of all the different times we'd worked with HP. It's quite a situation.
So different CEOs at each point, right?
Yeah, and then Meg Whitman came in, and she said she was fun, and she did a great job.
Yeah. So, did Meg Whitman hire you guys, or she didn't?
No, Meg worked with me, but then she said, "No, I've got it."
And she's got it, right? When they call you in, troubles are brewing, right?
Usually, but we stay with our clients a long time, Roger. I mean, the railroads have always been at Joele Frank. We learned on regulated entities.
Okay.
So I had always done a huge amount of utility work. Utilities merged in the 80s, late 80s and 90s. A lot of the utility companies were merging in the 80s and 90s. And then in the early 2000s, they broke apart. Some of them went bankrupt. And then their CEOs changed. And then now they're merging again, or, something's going on in the regulated utilities. The railroads, oh my God. One of my very first clients when I first became a PR person was Kansas City Southern. It was a railroad. And about a year and a half ago, 2 years ago, it's been my client all the way through. And we finally sold it to Kansas City. I mean, not that too. I mean to Canadian Pacific.
Now, is this the railroad company that had there was a train that kind of crashed?
That's Norfolk Southern.
Okay, that's not okay. That wasn't.
But there are only six large railroads in the United States. There were 7 historically. Somewhere along the way, we worked for all of them.
Oh, okay. Now, did you handle that mess over there when they?
We were Norfolk. I was Norfolk for the last 14 years.
Wow. Okay. Wow. Tough.
Great.
You love it.
I love it, and there's such nice people. It's quite the situation. Remember, Norfolk just went through an activism situation and some issues, and the new CEO, who had been the CFO, is terrific.
Now, do you recommend that they get out in front of these things, or all depends, right?
Depends. Every situation is different.
Yeah, because sometimes you don't want to be the echo chamber and make it worse, right?
Well, we're representing usually the corporations and the boards potentially, and every corporation has their story to tell. You have to hear what the other side says, but you have to tell your story your way. So that, as one of my lines is, does it win me a vote or does it lose me a vote? And all of the actions when they're dealing with things, They have to decide, does it win me a vote or lose me a vote?
Can you give an example that it worked much better than you thought it was going to be? Do you have an example of a situation or a case that actually worked much better than you thought?
Well, on Norfolk, let's just do Norfolk. The world has changed because of universal proxies. Every board member is basically their own nominee. You don't do it by slate. It was easier. You vote yes, you vote no on a slate, but now you vote per person. And when someone puts up a full slate, which is what Ancora did, they put up 7 members for a 13-member board. If they gotten all 7 in, they would have done it. And right now, of course, Manville Ridge has put up 9 people for a 9-person board. But I'll remember this. But I mean, what we did, which I think is fascinating, is we were able to show that, that the railroad was doing the right thing at the right time. It was making the changes it needed to make. And so they only lost 3 seats out of the 7. That's major.
Yeah.
That is major. They could have lost, a lot more.
Yeah. Yeah. How about a situation where actually you thought it was going to go well, but really didn't? And what did you learn from that?
Well, I'm pretty much a realist, and our job is to see around a corner, right? That's what our job is.
Yeah.
And so, we tell the worst story as we possibly can and say, but here's what you can do to make it potentially better. Because it's really, will these actions win me a vote? Will these actions lose me a vote?
You have a particular case study or not?
No, they all kind of work that way.
Yeah.
And then we're in, you saw the statistics are, we're in a lot of these. I mean, it's we're known for it, and I think we do a really good job.
How did that happen? It was you started with the 37 clients and then just became known to
Well, we'd always done M&A.
Okay.
But you know what? All right, let me give you an example. When we started, we were an M&A shop. Do you know what happens at the end of a deal? The clients resign. They're done with you. So we had to learn to really, as an organization, we had to learn to do ongoing investor and public relations. So we learned to do that. Then we'd always done proxy fights. So that's really M&A, proxy fights. Then what really became interesting was to do bankruptcy work. That came along. One of my partners had done a lot of bankruptcy, and then we'd done a lot of bankruptcy for one of the big bankers. His name was Bill Repko. And I said, Bill, I'm just overwhelmed. I need more people. I said, don't you know anybody? He said, yes, I do. I said, who? He said, oh, my daughter. I said, okay. So we hired his daughter, and we also hired his son. Megan's one of the main partners here, and Jed Repko is now one of the co leaders of.
They needed a job. They were graduating.
Well, they knew how to do it. They really helped. So bankruptcy, and Michael Freitag joined us from Keck.
Did that fall under sort of the crisis communications? Is that where that kind of word, that phrase came out, crisis communications?
It had always sort of existed.
Okay.
The bankruptcy practice is so unique and straightforward. People, it's got more rules than anything else. But so we did that. So, you're doing things. Then, believe it or not, in the olden days, the bankers used to do the graphics work for the companies for their earnings calls, for their analyst days. And then they realized that was not making them any money. So they sort of stopped, and then we picked that up. So that also is something we do. We do analyst days. We do the graphics work. That's been very exciting to do.
So that's the investor relations, basically.
Investor relations side of it. Because I come out of investor relations, unlike some of my competitors, we're a little heavier on the investor relations side than we are on the PR side.
Yeah.
Just from my interests pushed that way, and the firm went that way, and that's how we came.
All right. So how many people? So you started with 12 people, and
we're 240 now.
240. Wow.
Yeah, and 24 partners.
Okay. And New York and
New York and San Francisco.
Okay. Anywhere else? Are people
Not yet.
working
No,
remotely?
we liked it. What we have done is we try to work with the best people wherever we can. Some of the people that we used to work with are now part of other agencies as the other agencies went geographically global. But when we have global work, we'll join with another agency, who's usually an independent in Europe, an independent in the UK, an independent in Asia, and we can make up a team. It works very well.
Yeah. To build an organization from 12 to 20, that's
12 to 240.
A lot of boutiques. Then you go from 20 to 240. I mean,
it's like 25 years old, Roger. Come on.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. So are you hiring like 10 people a year? Is that what's going on?
Originally we hired, sort of, it depends. It would go in spurts, and then we would have to look for expertise as we decided to build out graphics, or we decided to build out, now our new build out is digital, because during the Norfolk fight, the digital side of things was incredibly important to maximize votes.
So let's dive deep there, because I think some practical applications here in digital. So digital, social media, all of that. So how is that sort of changing the landscape now?
It's unbelievably different. The only situation I can really attest to is Norfolk, because, as I said, remember early on, I said that the shareholders, most of the time, it's 20% retail.
Yes.
Okay. Not only is it 20% retail, but retail only votes 50% of the time historically. So that's 10% vote.
Yeah.
But it votes 75% for management. So that's 7.5% you could count on in the management column.
Okay.
But during Norfolk, we were able to get that vote that usually is 50%. Let's say that's 20%, that 50% up to 75%. That's 15%. We were able to get the votes, not 75%, but higher. So instead of just getting 7.5%, we got almost 10 or 12%. That's a lot of votes
to vote for
management.
Vote management. So the retail tends to vote for the management.
And we did that through digital, using social media, pushing the social media out to the digital shareholders, out to the shareholders. And we didn't want to tell them, you have to share all the information on who your shareholder base is under the laws. And we were able to do it, very succinctly.
And how would you do that on social media? You
didn't do it on social media. You did it through individual email to the person.
Oh, individual emails. Okay.
Yeah, you would email or make sure that they're on their feeds. They saw it.
Okay. Well, you had to have all their emails.
Well, we would get them because they would send it in.
Okay. So they need to, because they want all their proxies emailed to them.
Now they do.
Yeah.
Now they do. Digital is huge. And you're getting 1% of what we do because I don't understand it enough to explain it well enough.
You got a team of people.
I got a team.
So, most people, the listeners here, people watching this on our M&A TV YouTube channel, they don't know how difficult it was to get you to speak at one of our events, number one. Number two, you don't usually do podcasts, so that was tough. So I want to thank you for doing this. But you want your team to be out in front more. I think that's what we've heard from you. Whenever we would ask, hey, we want Joele. She won a
you don't want me. You want one of my
partners. You want my partners, and you want my young people. That's cultural. I think that you obviously put.
I'm just a mother. What do you want? I do actually think that means something.
Yeah. So why is that important? Why do you think? And it's obvious to you, and maybe obvious to some people, but that's not how a lot of companies actually do work. A lot of the boutique like to keep as they're not really.
I have to say, Reinhardt. When I began with Jonathan was really, he for his day, he was really. He helped me a lot. I don't even think he knew what he was doing to help me a
Right.
lot, but he
Well,
had a
I'm
team
saying you,
structure.
yeah.
He had a
Okay.
team, and the team was great. Everybody was smart. He compensated people beautifully. When he got bought by WPP, it changed a lot of things.
Yeah.
You don't understand, but George Sarg, who started Sarg Verbinnen, which is now part of SGS, George was on 12 and I was on 13.
Okay.
So we were in the same building. We were in
Yeah.
the same office. And we,
13th floor.
and
Okay.
there was it was a marvelous team structure that worked very, very well, which I copied.
So you've had good, whether you call them mentors or people that
people for whom you take the best of the best.
Right.
I also
right.
take the worst, but
Right. Why is it important that you have it like that? You structured it this way. Why is it important to you? Because you could have said, okay, I don't want to do it that way. I want more.
Well, it depends. I found that it was more fun to work in a team. Also, there is nothing like watching someone who you've taken out of college, shown how to do it, let them go, and then they get the call from the client themselves. I mean, I get as much pleasure out of that as getting it myself. And if you want to grow a firm, you need people who are individual entrepreneurs on their own who will be able to do it. And we were able to do that. We did that.
Yeah. I mean, I want to acknowledge you for that. You probably already know, but to grow a firm and to have it all 240 or a majority of them entrepreneurs, right? Just really figuring it out. And putting them out in front of your clients. So, but there are times, I'm sure there are times when you didn't want to put them out in front of clients. What happened?
It depends. Yeah. I mean, I'm useful these days as the old lady who comes in and talks. But when we were going on and beginning, I couldn't do everything.
Yeah.
And I needed to have people who could do it as well as I could and could step in front. And we grew a team. It was first it was the four of us, Judy, me, Dan and Andy. And then we had Matt grew up. And then, the team, a lot of us are, a lot of the people here were there from the beginning.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, listen, congratulations on that. I mean, building a firm, is tough enough, right? And sounds like you have a good culture of young people over there. So how does one, if they like communications, they like public relations. By the way, I have a daughter who goes to SUNY Purchase for dance. She's a dance major in the conservatory, and her minor is arts management. So arts management. And I said, hey, maybe you want to get an internship at some of these communications firms. So how would someone, looking to get into that? Yes, I have a daughter who may want to do that. And if you don't mind, I'll
you share the stuff. We'll let you know. I mean, we do hire the children of bankers and lawyers and clients often.
Yeah. So how does somebody, come and apply?
Well, we have. I mean, would you believe I have all these HR people now?
Well, you have 240 people.
But Roger, you have no idea. We had like maybe one HR person for years and years and years and years and years, and then all of a sudden it like multiplied.
Full staff. Okay, so
we have a very active intern program every summer.
Okay.
And the young people come and we hire a lot of them.
Yeah, and then to eventually work potentially full-time, part-time, and then full-time.
No, not part-time. They come in full-time.
They come in right out of college?
Yeah.
Wow. Is that your primary
that's my primary resource. Yeah, that's our primary growth, usually right out of college.
And do you go visit the colleges?
Not anymore because it didn't work. We do.
Yeah.
But it was, the word is out that we're a good place to be.
Yeah.
For the summer. And so we get a lot of people coming in over the transom, actually.
And that's a lot of your clients or investment bankers, finance people say, hey, go go work with Joele.
Right. And then private equity steals a lot of my people. So we,
Really?
yeah.
What happens that? Okay.
So they become our clients.
Wait, aren't you? Oh, I see. Okay. So you like that. That's okay.
No, yes and no. It's kind of like one of my children is leaving. Oh my God. But it's kind of fun to have them as clients.
Do they pay them more? Is that what happens?
I don't want to discuss it.
Okay. Well, the private equity, they need good people as well, right?
That has been the drain from us has been primarily private equity. Yeah. Once in a while, the lifestyle doesn't fit because it isn't easy. It is 24/7.
It's tougher, right? So if you wanted to get in on this side, what's the lifestyle like there? Is it
it's better than it was when I was coming up. Judy Wilkinson, who retired, we made a decision that the young people would never have to do what we did, which was, they should be able to go to their children's doctor's appointments and go to their school to make sure they were at the schools for the, talking to the teachers. And if the kid was sick, you stayed home. And, and this is before Zoom. I mean, so, we made a conscious decision that we would support the lifestyle for families. It is still hard, but we do have a team structure. So like there are weekend teams. People know that they're on for the weekend if something comes in. But if you have a crisis, you're working it.
Yeah. So the balance is very important for you.
Yeah, balance is very important to the firm. Zoom has been an incredible tool for, being able to work wherever. But I think you're going to laugh at what I'm going to say. Zoom means that no banker could put me in the back row. It makes, for women in particular, you're the same size as everybody else. It was amazing.
Wow. I never looked at it that way, right?
I'm sure everybody you didn't. You're a guy.
Yeah. Let's talk about that. Maybe, women in finance. Okay. So we cover, quite a few women. We'd like to have more women. By the way, if you have any, private equity bankers that are women, we want them to be speaking at our events, not because they're women, but because they have a perspective, and we want to.
I think that with the working from home and the Zoom and the part time and the way it comes in, where you're 3 days in the office, 4 days in the office, 5 days in the office, the ability to not do as much travel.
Yeah,
there's two things that happen. One, you supposedly had a better lifestyle, except for the fact that now it's 24/7, really 24/7.
Right.
When we used to travel, there was downtime when you couldn't do it.
Yeah.
We travel a lot less.
Yeah. And then now they have Wi-Fi on the plane, and Wi-Fi is going to be even better with the Starlink and everything with the satellite. So you won't be able to escape. You'll be able to do the Zoom call on the plane in
we'll see. We're going to be able to have conference calls like we used to.
So you're saying the technology here, let's get to that point, is, more conducive for families. So you don't always have
aspects of it. Yeah. I mean, there's aspects that are worse because it's very intrusive to the lifestyle, but it also means that you can be home and we can figure it out.
Right.
And in our firm, if you need to be somewhere that I don't care how, what level you are, if you have an emergency, you have to do it.
Yeah. Okay. So that is very, obviously very, an important part of your culture there. What else do you, any other thoughts or, we have quite a few, as I said, emerging leaders, young people listening to our podcast. Any words of wisdom, advice as they kind of come through either communications or banking or finance?
Well, I mean, I think it's always very interesting when I meet a college grad that doesn't read the newspaper.
Well, they get their news. They get their news from. I heard that they get their news from TikTok.
They may, but I mean, one of the things, I actually am old fashioned, so I like to get my papers. But, and I get, I start with the New York Post, and then I go to the New York Times, and then I go to the Journal every day. Those are my first 3 reads of the day, and then I go elsewhere online, the FT and stuff. So I read a lot. I find that the young people, it's an experience for them. They don't necessarily do it. They're learning.
So number one, keep up with current events and read primary sources of news.
Well, I think they need to know the news sources. I mean, it's very important, I think.
So when you're conducting an interview with an intern and they don't know what's going on,
it's very interesting what the young people know. They know a lot of things, and I learn a lot from them too. It's different.
Yeah. Okay. Any other bits of advice when they're coming in and get to meet Joele?
For heaven's sakes, do some research on the firm that you're interviewing with. Make sure you know everything you can.
Yeah. And any words of inspiration to get people into our industry?
I think it's the same thing, Roger. I think you're going to have to go visit every law firm and do a seminar to talk to the people about what's going on.
Yeah.
I think it's very helpful.
Okay.
And most people want to do it because they want to do the social aspect of things. And I think you offer both. You both offer the education and you offer the connectability.
Yeah. Well, I'd love to see what an internship at your firm would be like. It looks like you'll be and you're working directly with clients. You'll do client stuff.
They're on the phone. Yeah. They may not be in a meeting, but
yeah. Okay. Joele, I know we covered a lot and we're just about up at time. Anything else you want to?
No, it's been so I want to just thank you. I think it's a marvelous organization. We're very excited to be a part of it. Honored to have been honored. And, we're, how competitive we are. So we're very competitive.
Yeah. You like to win, which is good.
You like to win.
Good. And, thank you for allowing us sort of inside your career, your life, and inside the culture of your company.
Thank you so much for having me.
Okay. Thank you, Joele.
Take care.
We hope you enjoyed this episode and learned something new from it. If you have any questions or comments for us or any of our guests, please feel free to leave them in the podcast platform of your choice or send us an email at editor@maadvisor.com. We would love to hear from you and get your feedback. And if you haven't done so already, please follow us on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube, and subscribe to our M&A Alerts newsletter at the links in the description or on our website at www.maadvisor.com. This will help you stay updated on the latest M&A interviews and trends and support our podcast to grow and reach more listeners like you. This is Roger Aguinaldo, the creator and founder of the M&A Advisor. Thank you for tuning in and being part of our M&A Advisor community. Until next time, stay safe and happy dealing.